What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoundHound. What a absolutely crazy day. So we went from absolute massive fear yesterday to seems like euphoria. Although in SoundHound's case, it seems to be lagging a little bit. So I want to go over all the things you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoundHound is up 2.97%, 15.01 the low, 15.65 the high. During the pre-market, it did show some signs that it wanted to really break out with most of the broader market. But obviously that was short-lived. You did have some institutions selling that really brought it down straight away. But since then, it's been lagging. And what I mean by lagging is, for instance, even on my watch list, Starbucks. Starbucks is up 3.8%. Shouldn't be on the same spectrum as SoundHound. So people's appetite for risk is definitely increasing today. Like a lot of stocks, such as Micron, is up 9.3%. You have this stock right here that generates no revenue whatsoever. It is up 8.8%. A lot of stocks are rallying. So I think SoundHound is lagging a little bit because there's some hesitation going into their earnings. But to start off, what is causing all of this hype today is kind of two things. One is that we did have our first labor-linked data point in a very long time because of the whole shutdown. This one, I'm not really sure why it was released, but regardless, I don't think the market cares all that much. ADP did come in at 42,000, forecast of 20,000. So very good stuff. Of course, market doesn't really want good labor data because it doesn't really justify a rate cut, but nonetheless, market took this as a positive. And then you also did have Trump pretty much predicting that the stock market is going to be at all-time highs very soon. So kind of crazy stuff on how this is all playing out. So yeah, you have a little bit of data, but a lot of optimism in the broader market today because of comments that Trump did mention. Aside from that, there hasn't been any news, no SEC filings, no changes to the current estimates. So the estimates going into tomorrow's earnings, which is after hours on a side note, is -3 cents for the earnings per share, 40.48 million for the revenue, and then over the last 90 days, 1 positive and 4 negative revisions to the earnings per share. I've already dived deep into this on my weekend video on some expectations, what Wall Street's really going to be listing very closely on. But I am fairly optimistic that their earnings is going to be pretty solid. At the time of doing this video, shorts are increasing a small amount. 115.36 thousand shares, 28.7% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 105.25 million shares overall being shorted. Cost to borrow average is 1.1. That's an annual rate, not a daily rate, so nothing crazy or significant. But you can kind of see how shorts just outright returned a significant amount recently. It went from about 32% short interest to 28%. So kind of interesting stuff, especially leading into their earnings. That might be a sign that they do feel that will be a good catalyst, really pushing SoundHound higher. Looking at the options for today, 5.3 million in calls, 3.7 in puts, and then 45% of all the options being done are bullish in nature. You can, as well at the top right here, the expected move or an implied move is 12.32%, which works out to be $1.92. So that's what you can expect in either direction from SoundHound's earnings. So it's either going to bring it back down to potentially that $13 range, give or take, or potentially back to that $17.50 or maybe even $18. So let me know your thoughts and where you realistically see things going. As far as from the bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that, it looks like $16 to $17 range, which is rather low if you ask me. And then the bears are anticipating for it to be sub 13. And so I think even just generally institution and retail investors are just waiting for SoundHound's earnings. There's a lot of other plays that are rallying. So I think they're getting the majority of the attention today because, like I even kind of just showed you, even the bulls, like there's not really much activity, which is kind of crazy, right? But nonetheless, though, these are some of the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. So even though we are seeing somewhat low volume, we are seeing a lot of good buying that's happening. So 4.8 is the highest one for today, then 550,000, 466. Then these are some of the transactions occurring on the dark pool. So big ones for today is 1.3 and then 1.25. Given the fact that shorts aren't that active today, it is fair to assume that most of this is linked to hedge funds. So hedge funds and shorts, that's kind of most what makes up the dark pool for the most part. Right now, with that 1557, smack dab in the middle between this S1 and the S2. So neither this S1 or S2 has been touched. So just kind of keep those in mind, take a mental note, because yeah, post earnings, we could potentially be seeing between this S2 and this S3, or this pivot and this S1. So anticipate a lot of volatility because of the good data that we did get. It did really hit this. So now there is a 64.5% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut. So kind of did go down slightly, nothing too crazy. Again, no new analyst ratings. The last one did come out 20 days ago, but most likely, since their earnings is coming out after hours, anticipate a couple of ratings to be posted on Friday, if not early next week. And hopefully we get a good one from Daniel Ives, because I know Wall Street really does, when he says jump, like the Wall Street says how high. So if he really gives and is bullish on, for instance, SoundHound, then I feel like it could draw a lot more institutional attention to it. Aside from that, popping over here, the chart doesn't look that great still, because it did break below that 50-day moving average, and today it's kind of lagging. And the technicals might be one attributing factor as well, why SoundHound is lagging a little bit. But nonetheless, going into this earnings, we are going to be most likely wedge bound between that 50 and 100-day moving averages. So that is sitting at 14.18 and then 16.51. There really hasn't been that much in articles really talking about SoundHound. Couple of just broader sector type of things that include SoundHound in here, but nothing really crazy worthwhile to bring up. So let me know your thoughts on SoundHound. One positive going into SoundHound's earnings, though, is the fact that it is very oversold. So that could really work in its favor. So if they put out some gray kind of news, the market might still take that as a positive and run with it. But nonetheless, from the fireside chats that I did listen to, I think generally management is very optimistic about SoundHound. One thing as well that I'm waiting to kind of see early on tomorrow morning is last earnings, they did already announce interviews prior to their earnings. So that is a crazy, like that's next level optimism. So if management tomorrow morning says, hey, we're going to be on Bloomberg and blah, 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 you already know their earnings are going to be a smash. So in my opinion, if that does happen, if you ever see a tweet on, or I guess it's now X, them saying that they're going to be on an interview later that day, buy. That's my own personal opinion. Of course, you guys do whatever floats your boat, but I think any stock generally doing that and announcing that ahead of time is like next level aura kind of stuff. So let me know your thoughts on SoundHound. And then one final thing, I just launched a new equivalent to Patreon, and that is called Stacked. And so I'm going to be doing a promotion where it is only $1. So if you are looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, sign up for this. Like I said, it's only $1 for 48 hours for 2 days. That is it. Anyone signing up, you can get that $1 price, and it's going to be like full grandfathered in. You're not going to have any increases. So if you ever were hesitant about Patreon, especially the prices through there, like $1, you cannot beat that. So definitely sign up. 48 hours only. So end of pretty much tomorrow. And then, yeah, definitely take advantage of that. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.